2010. We only have a continuing resolution which provides us 50 seconds of the annual budget to operate right now. But even once we get FY 2010, that was actually committed 2 years ago, because that's the federal budgeting process. Yeah. So 2011 is what's in the pipeline now, being queued up, and is really opportunity money. Because 2010's committed. Obviously, there's always some discretionary ways to make things happen, but for program announcements, those have to more or less be planned for those out years. And it's not, again, unique to chronic fatigue syndrome. It's every program announcement I've ever seen, heard of, or watched move. So, okay.
All right, we have a little of an opportunity. I wanted to put this on hold. Dr. Hollingberg is here, and we had, as you know, a real question about the safety of the blood bank vis-a-vis the new information on the viral isolation from the Whitmore-Peterson group. And so if Dr. Hollingberg wouldn't mind and come up to the table, and we do appreciate the time you've taken from what we know is a busy schedule to address this panel, but we have at this panel the members are not only professionals. There are people with chronic fatigue immunodeficiency syndrome here. There are people on the panel that work at programs that take care of from children to adult patients with chronic fatigue. We had a wonderful presentation by yesterday that talked about the isolation of a candidate for being causally related to chronic fatigue syndrome, and almost immediately the question came up: should patients with chronic fatigue stop donating blood if in fact they were donating it? Was there going to be a development of a rapid screening test? And since I'm sort of an old AIDS involved from the very beginning, I certainly don't want to see another band played on scenario, and I don't think anybody wants that. So we thought having you come and maybe address to us the safety of the blood supply, given the newest information from the Whitmore Institute.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Jerry Holmberg. I am the Senior Advisor for Blood Policy within the Office of the Secretary, Office of Public Health and Science. First of all, let me say that my boss is the Assistant Secretary for Health, and he is designated as the Blood Safety Officer. We take this very seriously, and for you around the table that have chronic fatigue syndrome, we really understand, probably not fully as much as you understand the disease process, but we do understand it, and sir, we are very much interested in making sure that the blood products are as safe as possible. None of us want to relive the days of the early 80s. I have a statement for you. This statement really has been coordinated throughout the entire HHS Public Health Services. Many hours last night, emails flying through the middle of the night on this, and a majority of us just got back from the American Association of Blood Banks meeting in New Orleans, and this was a discussion point throughout the meeting. The Office of Public Health and Science Blood Safety Availability is aware of the recent literature suggesting linkage of chronic fatigue syndrome to a possible contagious rodent virus, XMRV. XMRV has been associated with aggressive form of prostate cancer. Antibodies against the virus have been detected in 3.7% of healthy controls in a study on a small number of individuals. Currently, there is no commercially available test for infection with XMRV. While there is no known association of chronic fatigue syndrome or prostate cancer with history of transfusion, the finding that the virus is associated with whole with white blood cells has led to some to the question whether XMRV could be transmitted by transfusion and might therefore pose a threat to the health of blood recipients and potentially also transplant recipients. The HHS Blood Safety Committee, which the Assistant Secretary for Health chairs, works with all PHS agencies, for example, CDC, FDA, HRSA, NIH, to ensure the safety and availability of blood products as well as transplantation safety. Under the leadership of that committee, steps are being taken to investigate the blood safety threats from XMRV and the potentially protective role of white cell removal, which is performed in approximately 70% of the blood products. An interagency emerging infectious disease working group that reports to the Blood Safety Committee is currently assessing the literature of XMRV, conducting meetings with experts on the retrovirus, and interacting with groups that could study the question of blood safety. A report is expected within weeks. In particular, NHLBI Retrovirus Epidemiology Donor Study, REDS-2, investigators are aware of the report in Science and are assessing the prevalence of XMRV in blood donors to determine whether studies aimed at evaluating transfusion-transmitted rates are warranted using NHLBI's repository on both donors and recipient blood samples. HHS will remain vigilant in assessing blood safety of the blood supply and developing interventions as appropriate.
Jerry, will you take questions? Thank you very much for getting this together, because I know as you know, we were trying to catch you between airplanes, trains, planes, automobiles, and meetings yesterday. And for you to be able to do this, and I saw some of that traffic, obviously, with you last night and overnight, and we're very grateful for your making this information available. But if you will take questions, I defer now to the chairman.
We would appreciate it. I know there's some that have questions. I'll start this way and go around. Any questions over here?
First, I congratulate you on your quick response. That's fantastic. and it's good to know that these resources are there. I know that the blood transfusion safety work from HIV Forward has been has given you this fantastic repository to work from, and I think that you'll be able to answer the question. The major scientific issue, has been whether all the various tests for this new virus are the same, accurate, how good's the method? And I'm curious if, with the team that you've put together, how confident you are that you're using the best method possible.
Well, let me first comment by saying we have learned our lesson from HIV, and we take this very seriously. I would not be in this position if I did not have passion and compassion for blood safety and the recipients of blood products. What you just described is a very legitimate question, and this is what we have questions about as far as the differences in tests. And this is why every test that is used to screen blood products and tissue and organs actually has to go through the FDA process. Now, there are different ways that has been reported in this Science article, and of course, the more sensitive way of detecting the virus is actually the nucleic acid process. And so we are very comfortable as far as knowing that we have the team together that can really think through these steps. I think that one of the biggest things that we have going for us is the many years of history that the NHLBI REDS study. We've gone through REDS 1, REDS 2, and now in 2011 we'll be actually in REDS 3. And so I think having the repository of both donor and recipient gives us that biovigilance aspect that we can really investigate this, and we can also incorporate and have the coordination and the collaboration of all the public health services so that we are acting immediately on this issue.
Yeah. Could I add one other thing? Obviously, we would hope that the tests that had been developed and are